You know how they say your life can change in a single moment? A single choice? A single look? I used to think that was just something people said to make bad decisions sound poetic. But that was before I met him, Ethan Cole. Before I walked into Aurora Heights, the tallest glass tower in Manhattan, holding my cheap leather bag and wearing a blouse that still smelled faintly of the lavender detergent my mom used to buy from the discount store. I had no idea my first day as a junior financial analyst would turn into the beginning of a story I wasn't ready for. A story no one warned me about. I guess I should start with me. Lila Montgomery, 24, recently graduated, broke, and still carrying the weight of my dad's medical bills on my shoulders. My mom works double shifts at a small diner back in Riverside Springs, our quiet little hometown, and I promised her, no, I swore, that I'd take care of us. That's why I applied to Aurora Heights, why I spent endless nights rewriting my resume until my laptop practically begged for mercy. Getting this job at Cole Enterprises felt like winning the lottery, until I found out about his rule. Everyone in the company knows it. It's written into the air, unspoken but understood. Ethan Cole does not mix business with pleasure. No dating employees, no office romance, no distractions. And trust me, if you've ever seen him, you'd know why that rule exists. Ethan Cole is the kind of man who turns entire rooms silent without saying a single word. 6'3", sharp jawline, eyes the color of storm clouds right before the rain hits, and a reputation colder than the New York winter. They call him the Ice King behind his back, but only behind his back. No one dares cross him, not even senior executives making triple my salary. On my first day, I was already late. Typical, right? The subway stopped between stations for 12 whole minutes, and by the time I reached the lobby of Aurora Heights, my heart was pounding like a drum. The marble floors stretched endlessly, sunlight pouring through the massive glass walls, and for a second, I just stood there, dizzy with awe until I slammed right into him. Yes, him, Ethan Cole. My cheap leather bag slipped off my shoulder and spilled across the floor. Pens, lipstick, my cracked phone. Mortified, I scrambled to pick everything up, mumbling something like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't..." But then I looked up, and it was like the whole world stopped breathing. Those gray eyes locked on mine, unreadable, unrelenting, like he could see straight through me. For a moment, I thought he was angry, but instead he simply studied me. No expression, no emotion. And then he said, in the smoothest, deepest voice I've ever heard in my life, "You're late." I swear my heart stuttered. I know. I was. He didn't wait for excuses. He didn't need to. He just stepped around me, his tailored suit brushing past, leaving behind a trail of expensive cologne and intimidation, and disappeared into the elevator. That was my first encounter with Ethan Cole, and I told myself right then and there, stay away from him, Lila. Do your job. Get your paycheck. Go home. But that was before everything spiraled. By my third week, I realized Cole Enterprises wasn't like other companies. There was this energy about the place. Everything moved fast. Deadlines, deals, decisions. People whispered in elevators, stayed late in glass-walled conference rooms, drank coffee like it was oxygen. And through all of it, Ethan ruled like a king on a throne made of steel and secrets. He didn't laugh. He didn't flirt. He barely smiled. But somehow, the entire company revolved around him. And then came the night everything changed. It was Friday. I was still at the office around 10 p.m., buried under quarterly reports, trying to impress my supervisor because rumor had it Ethan personally reviewed the analyst's performance before signing off on promotions. The whole building was nearly empty. I had music playing softly through my earbuds when I heard it, his voice. "Miss Montgomery." And then, out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you know my one rule?" I nodded instantly. Everyone knew. "Yes, sir. No dating employees." He stared at me for a long moment, and I swear, there was this tiny, dangerous smile tugging at the corner of his lips before he murmured, "Good." And then he walked away. I thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. After that night, things shifted. I started noticing him noticing me. Little things. His gaze lingering in meetings. Passing me in the hallway and saying my name. Lila, not Miss Montgomery. He started assigning me to projects directly under him, the kind of projects that analysts 2 levels above me would kill for. And I told myself it was because I worked hard, because I earned it. But deep down, I knew there was more. I tried to fight it. God, I tried. But the late nights blurred into early mornings, and soon we were spending hours alone in his office, shoulders brushing as we went over figures, voices low, breaths close. Every second felt electric, dangerous. I knew about the rule. He knew about the rule. But somehow we were both pretending we didn't. And then, it happened. It was a Wednesday night, rain tapping against the glass walls of his office. We were reviewing a deal worth $200 million. Our heads bent over the same document, when I looked up and found him already staring at me. His gaze was intense, unreadable, but his voice, God. His voice was softer than I'd ever heard it when he said my name. Lila. I froze, every nerve in my body screaming at me to back away. And that's when I realized I was already too deep. You know that feeling when you open an email and your entire world shifts? Like one short sentence can flip your stomach upside down? That was me, sitting at my desk, staring at Ethan Cole's message. For words. For impossibly dangerous, heart-pounding words. Dinner. Tonight. My place. I must have read it at least 20 times, trying to convince myself it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe it was a business dinner. Maybe other executives would be there. Maybe this was normal. But the truth was, nothing about Ethan Cole was normal. I stared at the blinking cursor, fingers hovering over the keyboard. But no matter what I tried to type, nothing felt right. Every logical part of me screamed, "Don't go," reminding me of the rule, the risks, the whispers in the hallways if anyone found out. But there was this other part, the quieter, reckless part, that wondered what it would be like to say yes. And deep down, I already knew I was going to. I replied with 2 words. "What time?" Almost instantly, his response came through. 8 p.m. Don't be late. For the rest of the day, I couldn't focus. My spreadsheets blurred. My emails piled up, and my heart refused to calm down. By the time I left the office, the city outside was drowning in its usual chaos. Honking taxis, flashing lights, people Ethan Cole, barefoot, sleeves rolled up, and, God help me, cooking. I froze in the doorway, completely thrown. The Ice King, billionaire CEO, terror of boardrooms, chopping vegetables like an actual human being? He glanced over his shoulder, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Don't look so surprised," he said, sliding onions into a sizzling pan. "I can handle more than balance sheets." I laughed softly, nerves bubbling under my skin. "I didn't picture you cooking." "That's because you only see what I allow people to see," he replied, voice calm but layered with something deeper, something I couldn't read. For the next few minutes, I just stood there watching him move around the kitchen effortlessly, sleeves pushed back, forearms flexing as he stirred something in a pan. The smell of garlic and rosemary filled the air, and suddenly, the entire scene felt intimate. "Wine?" he asked, holding up a glass. I nodded, grateful for anything to calm the chaos in my chest. We sat by the window as the city glittered beneath us, sipping wine while he served grilled salmon and roasted vegetables like some private chef had delivered it. The silence between us was strange, not awkward, but heavy, charged, like the room was waiting for one of us to admit something we weren't supposed to say. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Why me?" I blurted out, instantly regretting it when his gaze snapped to mine. He set his glass down slowly, leaning back in his chair. "Why you what? Why this?" I gestured between us, my cheeks heating. "I mean, I'm just me. There are plenty of women who'd..." "Stop." His voice was soft but firm, and my words died in my throat. Ethan leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, those storm-gray eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made it impossible to breathe. "Do you really think I don't know every person in my company? I see how hard you work, Lila. I see how everyone else leaves at 5, and you stay until 10. I see how you double-check numbers no one else bothers to. I see you." My chest tightened, a strange warmth blooming somewhere deep inside me, and for a moment, I couldn't look away. "You stand out," he added softly, almost like it was a confession. "More than you realize." I didn't know what to say. I didn't trust myself to say anything at all. So I just sat there, staring into my wine glass, until he said the one thing I wasn't ready for. "There's something I need you to understand." I looked up slowly. "What?" His jaw clenched, and for the first time since I'd met him, Ethan looked conflicted. "This isn't supposed to happen," he said quietly. "Not with you, not with anyone. I have one rule for a reason, Lila." My heart sank. "Then why am I here?" His answer was immediate. "Because I can't seem to stay away from you." And just like that, my carefully constructed walls shattered. We talked for hours after that, about everything and nothing. He told me he grew up in Ashwood Falls, a small coastal town in Maine, raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs. How he built his empire from scratch, how it cost him friendships, relationships, pieces of himself he'd never get back. He didn't give details, but there was something in his voice when he mentioned his past, a quiet kind of pain he carried like a shadow. At some point, I realized the jazz had stopped, the candles had burned low, and we were sitting on the couch, closer than we should have been. "You should go," he said finally, his voice low, rough, like the words hurt him. I nodded, but neither of us moved. And then, without thinking, I whispered, "Do you want me to?" His eyes darkened instantly, and before I could take the words back, he was leaning in, slow, deliberate, like he was giving me every chance to stop him. But I didn't. Our lips met, soft at first, tentative, almost unsure, and then everything else fell away. The city, the rules, the risks, none of it mattered. All that existed was him. The warmth of his hand cupping my jaw, the taste of wine and something deeper, something forbidden we both craved but couldn't name. But just when the moment began to spiral, a sharp, angry knock shattered the silence. Ethan froze, pulling back instantly, his entire demeanor shifting from vulnerable to cold, like a switch flipped. "Stay here," he whispered, rising to his feet. I watched him walk to the door, muscles tense, jaw locked, and when he opened it, that's when I saw her. A tall, elegant woman in a crimson coat, her dark hair perfectly styled, her eyes sharp enough to cut glass. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. Her gaze was on Ethan, and her voice was like silk wrapped in steel when she said, "Did you really think you could ignore me forever?" And Ethan didn't answer. I swear I stopped breathing the moment I saw her. She stood in Ethan's doorway like she belonged there, tall, graceful, polished in a way that screamed old money. Her crimson coat draped perfectly over her shoulders, a diamond bracelet glinting under the soft lights of the penthouse. And her face, God, her face was stunning. Perfect cheekbones, full lips painted in a bold shade of wine red, and eyes sharp enough to slice straight through me. But it wasn't her beauty that made my stomach twist. It was the way Ethan froze when he saw her, like someone had just dragged a ghost straight out of his past. "Vivian," he said finally, his voice low and controlled, but I could hear the tension beneath it, the kind that made my heart pound faster. Her red lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "So you do remember me?" I stayed silent on the couch, trying to look small, invisible even, but Vivian's sharp gaze flicked past Ethan and landed on me. Her smile faltered for just a second, enough for me to catch the flash of something. Not surprise, not curiosity. No, it was worse than that. It was recognition. "Interesting," she said softly, turning back to Ethan. "So this is what you've been hiding." "Not now, Vivian," Ethan replied sharply, his voice dropping into that commanding tone I'd only ever heard in the office, the one that shut entire boardrooms down in seconds. "Oh, I think now works perfectly," she countered smoothly, stepping inside as if she owned the place. The air shifted instantly, thick with tension, and I could practically feel Ethan's frustration radiating off him in waves. Vivian turned back to me, her gaze calculating. "I'm guessing you're the reason he hasn't returned any of my calls." I blinked, unsure what to say. I think you have the wrong idea." She tilted her head, the diamonds on her bracelet catching the city lights as she cut me off. "Oh, sweetheart, I don't have the wrong idea." Moment, his back to me, one hand braced against the doorframe, shoulders tense like he was holding the weight of the entire world. I swallowed hard, my voice barely above a whisper. "Who was that?" He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "No one you need to worry about." I frowned. "You don't get to say that after she just walked in here and talked to you like Lila." His tone was sharp, cutting through my words like glass. But then, just as quickly, he softened, running a hand through his hair. "I'll explain someday, just not tonight." I wanted to push him. I wanted answers, but there was something in his eyes, something dark and unspoken, that stopped me cold. Instead, I grabbed my purse and stood up. Maybe I should go. He moved instantly, faster than I expected, stepping into my path. "Don't," he said, his voice low, almost desperate. I froze, looking up at him, searching his face for something real, something honest. But before I could say anything, my phone buzzed in my hand, jolting us both back to reality. It was my mom, texting from Riverside Springs. "Dad's test results came in. Call me." My heart dropped. I muttered something about needing to leave, and Ethan didn't stop me this time. He just nodded once, silent, his gaze following me all the way to the elevator. That night, I lay awake in my tiny apartment, staring at the ceiling, my mind a hurricane of questions. Who was Vivian? What was her history with Ethan? And why did it feel like there was an entire world of secrets hiding behind those storm gray eyes he My mind was spinning. Vivian wasn't just someone from his past. She was someone significant, and she wasn't back in Ethan's life by accident. Later that day, Ethan called me into his office. As always, his space felt untouchable. Sleek black desk, glass walls, skyline glittering behind him. But his expression was sharper than usual, his jaw tight as he gestured for me to close the door. "About the other night," he started, his voice measured. I stiffened. "You don't have to explain." "I do," he said firmly. "Vivian and I have history. That's all." I hesitated. "The kind of history that shows up uninvited to your penthouse?" His gaze flicked up, sharp, but he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "She's not someone you need to get involved with." I almost laughed. "Involved? Ethan, I'm already involved, whether I want to be or not." For a long moment, he just stared at me, silent, unreadable. Then, finally, he said, "Lila, I need you to trust me." And God help me, I wanted to. I nodded, even though every instinct screamed at me to run. But before I could respond, his assistant burst in, looking pale. "Mr. Cole, we have a problem. Sinclair Holdings just made a hostile bid for the Brighton deal." Ethan's entire demeanor shifted instantly, the warmth, the vulnerability, gone in a flash. He stood, grabbing his jacket. "Call the board. Emergency meeting in 30. I stepped aside as he brushed past me, his cologne lingering in the air, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and longing. Vivian wasn't just back. She was declaring war. And somehow, I had the sinking feeling I was standing right in the middle of it. You know that feeling when the air changes before a storm? That quiet, heavy stillness right before everything unravels? That's exactly what it felt like walking into Cole Enterprises the next morning. The energy in the building was different, tighter, sharper. Everyone moved faster, talked softer. And the whispers, God, the whispers were everywhere. Vivian Sinclair had declared war. Not just on the company, but on Ethan. The Brighton deal was supposed to be Cole Enterprises' crown jewel, a $500 million acquisition that would secure our dominance in the luxury tech market. It was Ethan's brainchild, his legacy in motion. And now Vivian, CEO of Sinclair Holdings and his ex-fiancée, had launched a hostile bid to take it out from under him. I tried to stay focused on my spreadsheets, but the tension on the executive floor was impossible to ignore. Even Harper, usually unbothered by corporate politics, leaned over my desk mid-morning, whispering like we were plotting an actual heist. "They're saying Vivian's using inside information," she murmured, eyes wide. "Someone on the inside must be feeding her data." I blinked, my pen freezing mid-note. "Inside information? As in, someone here is leaking?" Harper nodded grimly. "If Ethan finds out who, that person's finished." I swallowed hard and forced myself to look busy, but deep down, I couldn't shake the thought. Vivian wasn't here just for business. She was here for him, and maybe for me too. By noon, an emergency board meeting had been called. Ethan didn't summon me directly, but when his assistant, Mia, slipped a note onto my desk with just 4 words, "Bring the Brighton files," my pulse spiked instantly. 30 minutes later, I was standing outside the glass-walled boardroom on the top floor, clutching a thick folder like it was my last line of defense. Inside, the tension was palpable. 12 board members sat around the massive mahogany table, their faces drawn tight. Ethan stood at the head of the room, tall, composed, radiating authority, but I could see the storm brewing behind those gray eyes. When he noticed me at the door, his gaze softened just slightly, enough to make my chest tighten. I handed him the files and tried to retreat, but his voice stopped me. "Stay." The word was quiet, controlled, but it was a command. I hesitated before taking a seat along the back wall. For the next hour, I watched Ethan dismantle Sinclair Holdings' tactics with lethal precision. He knew the numbers, the loopholes, the pressure points, and he used them like weapons. But the entire time, his composure was razor-thin, like he was holding himself together by sheer willpower. Finally, one of the board members, an older man named Whitmore, spoke up. "If Sinclair is getting access to our strategy documents, we have a breach. Someone inside this company is feeding her intel." The room erupted into speculation. Names, accusations, theories flying everywhere. But Ethan didn't join the noise. He stood silent, hands braced on the table, jaw locked. And then, in a voice soft but sharp enough to slice steel, he said, "Find them." The entire room went still. When the meeting finally ended, I tried to slip out unnoticed, but Ethan caught my wrist just as I reached the door. His grip wasn't tight, but it was enough to stop me. "Stay after," he said quietly. I waited until the boardroom cleared, the echoes of hushed conversations fading down the hallway, before turning to face him. "You okay?" I asked softly. For a moment, he didn't answer. He just stared out the window, the Manhattan skyline sprawling endlessly beneath us. Finally, he said, "Vivian doesn't move without motive." "Meaning?" I prompted gently. "Meaning," he sighed, turning to face me. "This isn't just about Brighton. It's about control." I hesitated, then asked the question that had been gnawing at me for days. "What happened between you two, Ethan?" Something flickered across his face. Something raw, unguarded, gone as quickly as it came. "She was part of my past," he said carefully. "We were engaged, and I made the mistake of trusting her. And," I pressed softly. He hesitated, his jaw tightening. "And she cost me everything." I wanted to ask more, to understand what everything meant, but his phone buzzed sharply on the table, cutting through the tension. He glanced at the screen, cursed under his breath, and said, "I have to take this." I nodded and stepped out into the hallway, heart racing with unanswered questions. But before I could make it back to my desk, I heard voices around the corner. Familiar voices. "You really think she's the leak?" "I don't know. But why else would she be so close to him all of a sudden?" "She's new. He barely talks to anyone. And now she's getting special projects. Late-night meetings, dinners." I froze. They were talking about me. 2 senior analysts stood near the copy room, whispering like conspirators. I backed away before they could see me, my chest tight, my throat dry. Was that what everyone thought? That I was sleeping my way into Ethan's trust? Or worse, that I was the one feeding Vivian information? I returned to my desk, forcing my face into neutral professionalism. But inside, I was unraveling. By late evening, the office was nearly empty again when Harper stopped by, tossing a file onto my desk. "Thought you'd want to see this," she said, lowering her voice. I pulled Sinclair Holdings' last 3 acquisitions. Every single company they took over had one thing in common. They had a mole on the inside. I flipped through the documents, my hands trembling slightly. "So Vivian, she always plays dirty." "Always," Harper said grimly. Before I could reply, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Unknown. You should stay away from Ethan if you value your career. I stared at the message, frozen, my chest tightening with a mix of fear and anger. Before I could respond, another text came through. Unknown, you have no idea what he's hiding. My throat went dry. I glanced toward Ethan's office, where the glass walls stood dark and empty. For the first time since I started working at Cole Enterprises, I wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe I didn't know him at all. I was stuffing my things into my bag when Ethan appeared beside my desk, his presence sudden and silent as always. "Come with me," he said softly, his tone unreadable. I hesitated. "Ethan, I don't think." "Lila?" He cut me off gently but firmly. "Please." It was the first time I'd ever heard him use that word. "Please," and something in his voice made it impossible to say no. Minutes later, we were in his penthouse again. But this time, there was no wine, no soft music, no casual charm. He paced the living room, tension carved into every line of his body. "You need to hear this from me," he said finally, stopping to face me. "Vivian and I were together for 4 years. We built half of this company together. But she betrayed me, sold proprietary data to a competitor in exchange for a controlling stake. I walked away from her, from everything we had, and I swore I'd never let her near my life again." I swallowed hard, whispering, "But now she's back." He nodded once, his expression dark. "And she's not here to win Brighton, Lila. She's here to destroy me." Before I could respond, there was a soft chime at the door, followed by another knock. Ethan's entire body went rigid. He strode to the door, glanced through the peephole, and cursed under his breath. "It's Vivian." My chest tightened instantly. What does she want now? He turned to me, his gray eyes storm dark. The kind that carried quiet authority. "Your Ethan isn't who you think he is," he said calmly, his words slicing through the silence like a blade. Lila's brows furrowed. "Your Ethan?" The way he said it made her chest tighten, like he knew about the pull she tried so hard to hide. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied quickly, her voice sharper than she intended. "And Ethan Brighton isn't mine." Nathaniel tilted his head slightly, observing her reaction with unsettling precision. "You may not want him to be," he said softly, "but he's already claimed you. That's why you're in danger." Her breath caught. "In danger? From who?" Vivian folded her arms, leaning casually against the desk, her crimson nails tapping lightly on the polished wood. "From Ethan himself." Lila froze. "That's ridiculous." Vivian's smirk deepened, her eyes glinting like glass under candlelight. "Oh, sweetheart," she purred. "You have no idea the kind of man you've entangled yourself with. The Brightons aren't just wealthy, Lila. They're powerful, dangerous. And Ethan?" She paused, savoring the suspense. "Ethan has more blood on his hands than you could ever imagine." Lila shook her head slowly, her mind refusing to absorb any of this. "No, that's not true. He's arrogant. Yes, infuriating, absolutely, but Ethan wouldn't." Nathaniel stepped closer, his gaze locking on hers, steady and unyielding. "Wouldn't what?" wouldn't destroy people to protect what's his. The memory flashed uninvited. Ethan's hand on her wrist at the gala. The possessive way his voice dropped when he said, "Stay away from Marcus. He's not safe for you." At the time, she thought he was being controlling. But now, Lila's stomach twisted. "What exactly do you know?" she demanded, trying to steady her voice. Nathaniel exchanged a look with Vivian before answering. 5 years ago, Ethan orchestrated something. Something that shattered the balance of power between the Brightons and the Whitmores. Lila frowned, confusion swirling in her mind. The Whitmores? The other family? Vivian's laugh was low and mocking. Other family? Darling, the Whitmores are the family. And Ethan didn't just cross them, he destroyed them. Before Lila could process the weight of those words, the library doors creaked open. Ethan Brighton himself stepped inside. The air shifted instantly. He looked dangerous tonight, dressed in a black tailored suit, the top buttons of his shirt undone, revealing just enough to hint at the heat beneath his controlled exterior. His stormy blue eyes swept across the room, first landing on Lila, then narrowing sharply on Nathaniel. Nathaniel! His voice was velvet-wrapped steel, smooth yet lethal. I should have known Vivian wouldn't be able to resist stirring chaos. Vivian smirked lazily, unfazed by his arrival. Someone had to tell her the truth, she purred. You've been keeping her in the dark long enough. Ethan ignored Vivian entirely and focused on Lila. His jaw tightened as he stepped closer, his voice low but laced with command. Lila, you shouldn't be here with them. But Nathaniel shifted, subtly stepping between them. She deserves to know who she's dealing with, Ethan. Ethan's laugh was short and humorless, but his gaze never left Lila's. Careful, Nathaniel. You think you're here to protect her, but you're putting her right in the middle of a war she doesn't understand. Lila felt like she couldn't breathe. Every word spoken seemed heavier than the last, tangled in secrets she didn't even know existed. Finally, she whispered, her voice trembling. What war? Ethan's piercing gaze met hers, and for the first time, she saw something flicker in his expression. Not arrogance, not control, but fear. Nathaniel answered instead, his voice cold and sharp. The war between the Brightons and the Whitmores. And you, Lila? He glanced at Ethan, then back at her. You're the key to ending it. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was heavier than the thunder. Lila stood in the Whitmore mansion's east wing, staring at her trembling hands. Vivian's unexpected arrival the night before had shattered everything she thought she knew. But it wasn't Vivian's presence that haunted her. It was the man she brought. The name was whispered like a curse among Brighton loyalists. Cold, calculating, and dangerously brilliant, Damon was Ethan's estranged cousin. Once his closest friend, now his greatest enemy. He leaned casually against the velvet railing, his silver eyes locked on Lila as if she were prey. Ah, Damon said smoothly. So you're the girl Ethan's been hiding. Lila froze. I'm not. Oh, don't bother denying it. He interrupted, voice soft but sharp enough to cut through bone. Do you even know who he really is? Before she could respond, Ethan appeared, silent, lethal, his presence filling the hall like a storm cloud. Step away from her, Ethan said, his voice calm, but Lila heard the violence beneath it. Damon smirked. Always the protector, aren't you? Just like last time. Lila's gaze darted between them, confusion clawing at her chest. Last time, she whispered. Neither man answered. That night, Lila couldn't sleep. Every word Damon had spoken replayed in her head. She had trusted Ethan blindly, let him pull her into his dangerous world. And yet, she knew so little about him. Finally, she found him in the library, leaning against the massive oak desk, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, shadows dancing across his jawline. Tell me the truth, she said softly. Who are you, Ethan? And why does Damon hate you so much? For a moment, he said nothing. Then, without looking at her, he spoke. 8 years ago, Damon and I were brothers in everything but blood. Until the night I betrayed him. Lila's breath caught. Betrayed him how? Ethan's gaze lifted, and for the first time, she saw something she had never seen before: regret. The Brightons and the Whitmores were bound by an old pact, Ethan explained. A silent alliance to control Brighton Bay, its trade, its influence, its secrets. But Damon wanted more. He planned to wipe out the Brightons and take the city for himself. I stopped him. Lila swallowed hard. Stopped him how? Ethan hesitated, his knuckles tightening against the desk. I leaked his plans. To my father. To your father. And in one night, Damon lost everything. The air between them thickened, heavy with unspoken truths. Lila took a step closer, her voice trembling. That's why he wants revenge. Ethan nodded slowly. And you, Lila, you're the key. Her chest tightened. Me? Why? Ethan's hand brushed her cheek, his touch hesitant, almost reverent. Because your family holds the one thing Damon needs, the Whitmore ledgers. They contain the codes, the accounts, and the hidden treaties that can destroy both families. That's why I've been keeping you close. That's why Damon will come for you. Lila's heart pounded so hard she thought it would break free from her ribs. So what am I to you, Ethan? She whispered. A pawn? Or something else? He didn't answer with words. Instead, he stepped closer. So close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. So close his breath brushed against her lips. His hand lingered at her jawline, tilting her face up to his. You were never supposed to matter, Ethan murmured, his voice low, raw. But you do. God help me, Lila, you do. The forbidden tension between them was magnetic, pulling them into dangerous territory neither of them could escape. Before she could respond, a deafening blast shook the mansion. Glass shattered, alarms screamed, and then, from the shadows, Damon's voice echoed like a promise of death. Game over, Ethan. She's mine now. The storm over Brighton Heights was unrelenting. Dark clouds tore through the skies, lightning forked across the horizon, and the world below trembled under the weight of war. Ethan stood at the edge of the Whitmore estate's glass terrace, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on the army of black SUVs gathering like shadows at the bottom of the hill. Damon Brighton had come, and he hadn't come alone. Beside Ethan, Lila's hand trembled slightly in his, though her face was defiant. Tell me the truth now, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the roar of the wind. What truth? Ethan murmured, his gaze still fixed ahead. That man, she said, motioning to the figure emerging from Damon's convoy. Tall, cloaked in black, his face hidden by the storm. Who is he? You flinched when you saw him. Ethan didn't answer, couldn't, because the man walking toward them was his father. Father? Ethan breathed, his voice raw, almost broken. From behind Damon, Marcus Whitmore stepped into view, alive. The man everyone believed had died in a Brighton assassination years ago. The man whose death had started this blood feud between the two families. Lila's breath caught. Your father? But how? Marcus's deep voice rolled like thunder. You were supposed to finish this war, Ethan, but instead you compromised yourself with her. forward, disarming one man in a single strike, slamming him to the ground, but Damon intercepted him with brutal precision. "You want her," Damon sneered, raising his weapon. "Then die for her." Before Damon could fire, Marcus stepped between them, his voice like steel. "No, she's not the enemy here. You are." Lila's confusion deepened as the storm howled around them. "What is going on?" Ethan finally turned to her, his voice breaking as he confessed the one truth he'd buried for years. "I killed Damon's sister." The world tilted. Lila blinked. "What? She wasn't innocent," Ethan rasped, his eyes burning. "She tried to assassinate me to wipe out the Whitmore line. But Damon, he thinks I murdered her in cold blood. This war isn't about power, Lila. It's about vengeance." Damon's roar tore through the chaos. "You did. And tonight, Ethan, I'm taking everything from you." It happened fast, too fast. Damon lunged at Ethan. Lila broke free from her captors. Marcus drew his weapon. And then one deafening shot. Lila froze as Ethan stumbled back, blood blooming across his shirt. "No, no, no, no," she screamed, catching him as his knees buckled. But Ethan's hand gripped hers, his jaw clenched as if refusing to surrender. "Listen to me," he gasped, his voice ragged. "If I fall, the Brightons win. You can't let that happen." Tears streamed down her face. "I don't care about the war. I care about you. Stay with me, Ethan, please." But he only smiled faintly through the pain. "You make me want to," he whispered. "For the first time, I want to." Gunfire roared around them. Marcus tackled Damon to the ground, the two men locked in a savage brawl. Lila looked down at Ethan's pale face, and something inside her shifted. She wasn't just the girl who fell for the wrong man anymore. She wasn't a pawn. Not anymore. She picked up the fallen weapon beside her, her hand steady for the first time all night, and aimed it directly at Damon. "Step away from him." Damon turned, and for the first time his smile faltered. "You wouldn't dare," he hissed. "Try me." And she fired. Weeks later, the war was over. The Brightons had fractured. Damon disappeared into the shadows, nursing his defeat. Marcus vanished, too, leaving Ethan to inherit the Whitmore empire alone. Lila stood at the edge of the estate's balcony, watching the first sunrise in months, where the sky wasn't filled with smoke and fire. Ethan came up behind her, his arms still bandaged, his face pale but alive. "It's over," he said softly. She turned to face him, her heart pounding, knowing that despite the blood spilled and secrets revealed, some wars never truly end, especially the one raging between her heart and his. And as his lips brushed hers, the dawn broke fully across Brighton Heights, a new beginning forged from fire, loss, and forbidden love. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your thoughts mean a lot to me. And trust me, tomorrow's story is even more shocking. You won't want to miss it. Turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know.